so that we can fulfill the promise of America for all people, all of our people. And it's not going to be fulfilled so long as the sacred right to vote remains under attack. We see this assault from restrictive laws, threats of intimidation, voter purges, and more. An assault that offends the very democracy, our very democracy. We can't rest till the promise of equality is fulfilled for every one of us in every corner of this nation. That, to me, is the meaning of Juneteenth. That's what it's about. So let's make this very Juneteenth, tomorrow, the first that our nation will celebrate all together as one nation. A Juneteenth of action on many fronts. One of those is vaccinations. Tomorrow, the Vice President will be in Atlanta on a bus tour helping to spread the word, like all of you have been doing, on life-saving vaccines. And across the country this weekend, including here in Washington, people will be canvassing and hosting events in their communities, going door to door, encouraging vaccinations. We've built equity into the heart of the vaccination program from day one, but we still have more work to do to close the racial gap in vaccination rates. The more we can do that, the more we can save lives. Today also marks the 6th anniversary of the tragic deaths at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina. A killer, motivated by hate, intending to start a race war in South Carolina. He joined his victims in a Bible study class. Then he took their lives in a house of worship. It's a reminder that our work to root out hate never ends, because hate only hides. It never fully goes away, it hides. And when you breathe oxygen under that rock, it comes out. That's what we must understand, that Juneteenth represents not only the commemoration of the end of slavery in America more than 150 years ago, but the ongoing work to have to bring true equity and racial justice into American society, which we can do. In short, this day doesn't just celebrate the past. It calls for action today. I wish all Americans a happy Juneteenth. I'm certainly in a moment, going to sign into law, making it a federal holiday. And I have to say to you, I've only been president for several months, but I think this will go down for me as one of the greatest honors I will have had as president, not because I did it, you did it, Democrats and Republicans, but it's an enormous, enormous honor. Thank you for what you've done. And by the way, typical of most of us in Congress and Senate, I went down the other end of the hall first and thanked your staffs, because I know who does the hard work. No, they're down there. They're at the other end, but I thank them as well. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Now, I'd like to invite up, while I sign, Senator Tina Smith, Senator Ed Markey, Senator Raphael Warnock, Senator John Cornyn, Whip John Clyburn, Representative Barbara Lee, Representative Danny Davis, Chair Joyce Beatty, and Sheila Jackson Lee, and Miss Opal.
Just stand.
You should have my chair. No? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Miss Opal, that's the first one. one of the greatest honors of his presidency. Those are the words from President Biden as he signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law, making June 19th a federal holiday to mark the day in 1865 when Union soldiers brought the news of freedom to enslaved Black people in Galveston, Texas. Biden and Vice President Harris, of course, the nation's first Black vice president, saying today is a huge step forward for equality, but that the fight is not over.
We have come far, and we have far to go, but today is a day of celebration. It is not only a day of pride, it is also a day for us to reaffirm and rededicate ourselves to action.
We can't rest till the promise of equality is fulfilled for every one of us in every corner of this nation. That, to me, is the meaning of Juneteenth.
And before Biden signed the bill into law, Harris, as president of the Senate, signed it beside a bust of Frederick Douglass. It is the first new federal holiday in the United States since Martin Luther King Jr. Day was established in 1983. Despite a unanimous vote in the Senate, these 14 House Republicans opposed the bill. Congressman Matt Rosendale saying he voted no because, in part, quote, this is an effort by the left to create a day out of whole cloth to celebrate identity politics. Congressman Chip Roy saying in part, quote, this name needlessly divides our nation on a matter that should instead bring us together by creating a separate Independence Day based on the color of one's skin. Out front now, Democratic Congresswoman from Texas, Sheila Jackson Lee, who sponsored the bill. And of course, Congresswoman, you were with President Biden at the White House today for the ceremony and had the honor of holding the gavel when the House passed the bill yesterday. I appreciate your time. And as I emphasize, of course, you had a unanimous vote in the Senate. That is significant. This is bipartisan in a way that absolutely nothing has been in a very long time. So that's very, very important to note. But I want to, and I'll ask you about those Republicans in Congress in a moment because they are important. But you've supported this for a long time. You first introduced a bill to make this a holiday a year ago, but you say it's been a journey decades in the making. How does it feel to be there, to finally see President Biden sign it?
There's history behind this bill. My work on it is 12 years consecutively and continuing, lonely sometimes, but then drawing in a wide breadth of support. Can you actually believe that the President of the United States was in the White House, built by slaves, and signing legislation that affirmed their freedom? It was an amazing experience. So being in the White House and having the president even say that in all that he might do in his 4 years as president, his first 4 years, that this might be his greatest honor. That was how we felt about it. That's how I felt about it. But I also felt that I was standing on the shores of the very place where General Granger might have come to speak to those slaves in Galveston. Remember, at that time, they were still property. They were not even counted as human beings. When he made that announcement, became employer and employees. That was the kind of experience that we were having in the White House when we'd come this far on this journey to get this national holiday.
So I mentioned, of course, the unanimity in the Senate, but not in the House. And I just quoted from two of your colleagues who voted against your bill. Your fellow Texan, Chip Roy, said this, quote, needlessly divides our nation based on the color of one's skin. What do you say to that?
Well, what I say is that that small, minute opinion was just that. It was isolated. It was small. I'm sure they expected to have a much larger presence of no votes. I made sure that Republicans knew that they were as much a part of the freedom of slaves as anyone else. We had 415 votes. So those were minority opinions inside of minority opinions. Sad that they had to interpret it that way. It's even more sad that they can't see unity and grab hold of it when it smacks them in the face. We did a great thing. And what we did was we opened the door. We opened the door for discussion to bring us to a final conclusion on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Bill. We opened the door for the president's agenda on racial equity, social equity, because we got Republican votes. Mm-hmm. We have some that we won't get on these other bills, like fixing the voting rights or H.R. 40, the Commission to Study Reparations. But what they expected was what they did not get. And that 415 is the largest vote we've seen in a good number of months or years, if you will. So I really think what we did is we showed the American people that we could be unified as members of the House and Senate, and we gave them a holiday where they could be unified, celebrating freedom.